Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /EntitledPeople, where people truly don't give a care in the world about anyone but themselves. And in today's episode, Karens are ridiculous yet again. We've got trespassing kids, people demanding their kids ride dogs, Karens stealing cars, and one OP tells a story of a Karen who blocks a road during an emergency. And oh boy, your heads will be shaking hard in this one. I hope you enjoy the stories. Hit subscribe if you're not subscribed. And as always, you can send or link your posts to this email right here. Let's dive in. So this happened a while back. I have a 5-year-old pup named Hipster. He's a rescue, and he came with that name. My dog Hipster is also a Newfoundland dog, and if you know Newfoundland dogs, you know they're rather large dogs. But despite their size, they're absolutely sweethearts. So that said, I take Hipster to the dog park pretty often. Newfoundland dogs are working dogs, so they have a lot of energy, and it's important to let them burn it off. Next to the dog park is a kids park, with a slide, swing, sandboxes, you know how they are. The kids there absolutely love Hipster, and my dog loves them. So as long as their parents are okay with it, I do let the kids play with him. It works out great, as playing with the kids helps Hipster burn off some energy. I was there the other day, and it was going as normal. The kids were playing with Hipster while I was talking with the mother of one of the kids, who regularly plays with Hipster. She's also a dog mom as well. That's when I heard Hipster whining, so we both run over. We run around the giant slide, and I can see a kid trying to climb on top of my dog. The kid looks to be about 5 or 6 years old. My dog is not an aggressive dog in the slightest, but I had no idea how he'd react to a kid trying to ride him. So I gently pull the kid back and tell him that he can't do that. And that's when he looks at me and he says, "My mommy says I can." And before I can react, the woman comes up and she yells at me for pulling her son off my dog's back. And this is basically how things went. The woman screams at me and says, "What are you doing to my son? Why are you touching him?" I explain, "I'm sorry, but he was trying to climb onto my dog. He said you told him it's okay." The woman says, "Yes, I did. He's not gonna hurt him. Look at that thing. Your dog is huge. He's basically an effing horse. So let my son ride him for a while." I tell her, "My dog is not a horse, and your son can't ride him. One of them could get hurt." So as I'm talking to the mom, I look back, and the kid's trying to climb on my dog again. So I run over, and I try to stop him, but that's when Karen grabs my arm. And she says, "Let him ride your dog. He's not gonna hurt him." I just pull my arm back, and I give her a look, and I say, "Yeah, that's not gonna happen." I go over, and I lift the kid away again, and I was being very gentle. I tell the kid he can't ride my dog and he needs to stop trying. And that was a mistake. The woman starts yelling at me that I'm trying to touch her kid inappropriately and that she'll call the cops if I touch him again. On top of that, the kid then starts screaming how his mom said he could ride my dog and he starts trying to hit me. That's when Karen says, "Just let him ride your dog around the park once. Stop being so mean, he's a kid." I tell her, "No, my dog is a dog. He's not a horse. And frankly, I don't want you or your son near him, so please leave us alone." I then call Hipster over, planning to leave. As I'm putting him back on his leash, the Karen grabs my arm, trying to pull me to her. My dog is very protective of me. He'd never bite, but seeing me in distress, he can let out a pretty loud and aggressive sounding growl. He does this, and Karen lets go of my arm, but Hipster doesn't stop growling. And that's when Karen says, "Make him stop that. Why is he doing that?" I tell her he's protecting me and he's not gonna stop until you leave us alone. She then says, "You people here are so rude. You seriously can't let my son ride him for a few minutes?" I again tell her no, and that's when she tells me off and she walks away before I can respond, leaving me and the other women in shock. My dog calmed down once Karen and her son left, and he went back to playing with the kids. What the heck is wrong with people? Some people are seriously too entitled. Yeah, that is exactly it. And the fact that she even got mad at that and even threatened OP with cops, the audacity, where is your brain, lady? Like, I have never even heard of anyone wanting their kid to ride a dog before, and it's seriously baffling that somebody would think it's okay to give their kid permission to ride a stranger's dog. Oh, that dog looks big enough. Go ride it, Timmy. And the thing is, I guess it's common for people who have bigger dogs to get this. This person says, I have mastiffs, and the amount of people who ask me if I let people ride my dog is disgusting. And once, I had someone try to put their toddler on my dog's back. I can't go into violent detail, but the police were called. There were no charges because she was trying to place her child on my dog's back. My dog was 235 pounds at the time, and he could have killed that child with one crunch. And this person shares a similar experience. This person says, this happened several years ago and it still makes me angry when I think about it. My dog wasn't feeling well and we were sitting in the waiting room of a vet's office. That's when a family sat down across from me and the father saw my dog. And he told his daughter, who looked like she was about 2 or 3 years old, to go ahead and go meet Lassie. Everything was fine until she decided to start climbing onto my dog's back. And that's when I said, no, please stop. My dog has arthritis and doesn't feel well. Please don't do that. And just like that, the girl's father jumps up and he runs over. The guy starts screaming so close to my face that I could feel his spit. The guy said that I had no business bringing a dog like that in here if it wasn't good with kids, and there was something seriously wrong with me if I wouldn't let a Lassie dog play with kids. That's when I told him that my dog literally has arthritis and isn't feeling well, and I don't want her trying to ride him. The guy then verbally abused me some more, and he told me to take my dog out of there if it wasn't okay for his daughter to play with him. My dog was perfectly well behaved, he always is. I was trying to protect him. That's when I look over at the vet techs, hoping they would step in, but they were on the phone. And the thing is, the guy wouldn't leave it alone though. After I told him all of that, the guy even had the nerve to whistle and say, "Here, Lassie, here, girl, come here." He then picked up his daughter and held her over my dog to try to place her on my dog's back. That's when I grabbed my dog's leash and pulled him out from under her just in time. And the kid starts to whine and scream. And I say, Lassie's a boy. He's here to see the vet. He's not a horse, and he's not here for your kid to ride. Well, this resulted in a lot more verbal abuse from him, and I kept wishing the vet techs would get off the phone and do something. The guy was still berating me when a vet tech called my name to go in the exam room. My dog's doing fine though. His arthritis does bother him sometimes, but he's enjoying life. Fortunately, I never saw that entitled father ever again. And I still get steamed whenever I remember him. Again, the audacity of someone to get into a stranger's face like that when they say, no, my dog's not a horse, don't ride it, is ridiculous, right? Like, where is your brain, sir? Like, at the very least, when you hear that a person's dog is sick, has arthritis, and isn't doing well, you should back off, right? But no, not in this case. But I guess that's entitled people, right? Who cares about anyone else? Me. And if you guys thought that was wild, listen to this next post where OP tells a story about a family emergency and a Karen with a hair appointment. So for context, I live in Dubai, and my childhood was spent growing up in a villa compound. It's basically like a mini gated community of 16 villa homes. Each have a private back garden that then converges into a large shared space with a pool, social area, foliage, etc. Everyone who lives in this compound is very wealthy. Now, as a result of this, everyone gets to know their neighbors very well due to the shared social space, and as most homes had kids, we would all play together in the pool. Now, there was a particular family with 2 very entitled kids, who we'll call Anna and Francis, not their actual names, who must have been about 9 years old. These little kids were well known for causing trouble in the community, and generally being extremely entitled. One story that sticks out the most to me is the following, which I hope you'll enjoy. So one afternoon, my younger brother runs into our house. Having been playing in a group with some other kids and Anna and Francis, he's very frustrated. He announces to me that Anna and Francis are currently in our private back garden and they're ripping the heads off our flowers. I of course go outside to find the two gremlins just ripping apart plants and kicking our hedges in while being supervised by their nanny, who spoke very little English. I say to them, "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" Anna replies, "What do you mean? We can do what we want." I tell them, "Stop that. You need to get out of our garden." The whole time, the nanny just stood there with a vacant expression on her face. So I walk up to her as the kids continue to destroy our garden. I say, "Excuse me, aren't you gonna do something?" The nanny says, "No, they just do what they want until dinner." So I tell her, "This is our garden. Can you make them leave, please?" This time, there's no response besides blinking. So naturally, my young brother and I turn to the gremlins, and we very firmly tell them, "Stop. Get out right now." And we start to usher them towards the exit. And this is when Anna drops some big threats for a 9-year-old. She says, "My mother owns this whole compound. And we practically own your house too, so we can do what we want." I just respond, "She really doesn't. Now get out." That's when Anna says to me, "We own your house and we can break anything we want. Our mom said we can, and we'll get you kicked out." At this point, we've pushed them out, followed by their nanny, and we lock the garden gate. On the other side, they start hurling obscenities, and they eventually run off to find their entitled mother. I'm told by my own mom that she had a heated conversation with this woman, who in fact did not own the compound nor our house, but she was very displeased that her kids' fun was interrupted by my brother and I. Apparently, in her words, we have absolutely no right to upset or interfere in matters involving her children, and we would, quote, "do well to keep our business to ourselves, or the landlord will be called." Suffice to say, my mom wasn't having any of it, and she asked politely that her kids don't invite themselves into our garden and don't destroy our property, which was in fact grounds to involve the landlord. The woman left in a huff, and we didn't hear from them for a couple of weeks, thankfully. And I'm sure you've guessed, Dubai does tend to have some rather entitled people in it. Okay, so this story takes place in the late fall 1976. I was 11 years old, and I never missed the bus to school. This day, I missed the bus, and my dad said he was too busy to drive me the 20 miles to school. So I stayed home, worked on my schoolwork, and I did some chores around our farm. This year, we had a very wet spring, so crops went in late. So my dad's out in the field harvesting field corn. It was getting close to noon, so I go inside the house and start lunch, knowing that Dad will be coming in for lunch anytime. But by 12:30, my dad's not in for lunch, and it was odd as this man had a stomach that you could set a clock by. So I head out towards the field to see why he's late. I'm about 50 yards into the field, and I can see him staggering towards the house like he's drunk. I wasn't alarmed, just wondered what's going on and why he's walking like that. He's finally a few feet away from me, and he raises his forearms towards me. It took me a few seconds to register the blood all over his clothes, and the fact that his arms no longer had hands on them. So I ran to the house, grabbed the keys, and got him into the truck. I'd been driving around the farm and back roads for a couple of years now, so I did drive quite well for my age. We then set off for the nearest hospital in a 20-year-old farm truck. It's about 30 miles from where we live. It just so happens that there's a river with a drawbridge that you have to cross to get into town. At the time this happened, they're in the process of building a higher bridge, and they're getting rid of the drawbridge. So as you can imagine, they've moved the original road, narrowed the lanes, and all the usual construction stuff. I get about a mile from the bridge, and traffic's at a dead stop. My dad, meanwhile, is in the seat. He's moaning and going in and out of consciousness. So I'm in the farm truck and I pull off the road. I start driving through the construction area to get to the head of the line for the bridge traffic. I'm honking like an idiot and waving my hand the whole time. The workers are yelling, but they're moving aside. That's when one guy pulls his truck in front of me and he jumps out, cussing me out. I later find out that he was the construction foreman. I had to stop when he blocked me because of tractors on each side. The guy comes to the door and he yanks it open and he's ready to kill me. That's when he saw my dad and he yanks me from the front seat and he throws me in the bed of the truck, screaming into his radio that there was an emergency. This man was doing about a dozen things simultaneously. His workers are running ahead of the truck where the line of cars are, and he's on the radio telling the bridge operator to stop the barge and lower the bridge, not in a minute, but to do it right now. Now, all of this probably took him a minute to 2 minutes max, but to me, it was only a moment. He then drives the truck up to the bridge, and that's where we meet Karen of the story. This lady is burned into my memory. She's driving a Cadillac, huge beehive hairdo, cigarette in her fingers, and she's got the bitchiest face that I've ever seen. The construction guys have been telling her to back up and move so they can get the truck onto the bridge. They explain there's an injured man in the truck. That's when I hear this vile woman yell that she doesn't care, that the injured man can wait. She needs to get to a hair appointment. The foreman then tells her that he'll use a caterpillar to move her if she doesn't move willingly. The woman refuses. At that point, our truck's about 2 inches from the side of her car. My dad holds up his hands, and Karen apparently saw the blood and the fact that his hands aren't there. She faints immediately. The foreman and his guys then put her car in neutral and they push it into a ditch. The foreman then drives us to the hospital. He's also on his radio telling whoever he's talking to that he wants the cops there to arrest her and to have her car towed for putting someone's life in jeopardy. I don't know what happened to Karen, but I do know that this foreman was a force of nature. He was a hero that day. So that's my story of dealing with a Karen back in the 70s. And just in case you're wondering, and to spare the gruesome details, my dad's sleeve got caught in the gears of a corn picker when he was working on it. He ended up spending several months in the hospital and he had many operations. In the end, he lost his right hand completely and he lost everything on the left hand but his thumb. He lived another 30 years after that. Holy moly, was that a wild one, guys. And Opie's such a hero at 11 years old for thinking fast, getting dad in the truck, and rushing it to the hospital while keeping it all together. As for the Karen who refused to move, I hope she faced the consequences that day. And guys, if you want to know why OP's first thought was rushing their father to the hospital, they pop into the comments to say, "We lived in a rural area that still had party line phones. There was no such thing as 911 there until the mid-1980s. And to be honest, it never crossed my mind to get anyone else. My mom was at work, dad was injured, so it was up to me to get him to the hospital." So this is something that happened quite a few years back, but I remember it well since it became one of those family stories that you always tell for a laugh. At the time this happened, I was 20 years old, and I was living with my mom in Dominican Republic while I finished college. At the time, we had a long-haired Chihuahua named Ponky. He was the sweetest dog in the world, and the neighborhood kids loved him because he was always up to play. We were living in a nice neighborhood, and the house had a large backyard. Instead of a fence, the backyard had a 7-foot wall surrounding it, and there was a large cashew tree close to the wall. This is important to the story. Now, if some of you've never seen this fruit, please Google Malay apples or cashew fruit. When the trees bear fruit, they don't hold back. They grow heavy with the fruit, and my mom would usually give the fruit away to the neighborhood kids. Like I said, my mom usually gave the fruit away to kids or let them come and pick it themselves. But as always, there was one entitled brat. Enter the kid from across the street, who we'll call Entitled Kid. The kid got it in his head that he didn't want to knock on the door to ask for fruit. He would instead climb the 7-foot wall and take the fruit from the tree. This would make my dog go crazy, thinking there's an intruder in his yard, and my mom would run outside to get the kid down. Now, my mom knew the family was a bunch of idiots, and she didn't want trouble. And 4 times she spoke to this boy, telling him, "If you want fruit, please come to the door. You're scaring our dog. I will give you all the fruit you want if you ask for it." When talking to him didn't work, my mom went to his house. My mom says, "Your son keeps trespassing in my yard and he's climbing a tall wall without supervision. He's making our dog very upset. He can have all the fruit he wants, but he needs to ask." At that, Karen says, "I can't control everything my son does all day. He goes wherever he wants. Chain your dog if he's being difficult." My mom tells her, "Well, no, that's called trespassing, and I won't chain my dog in my own yard, just so your kid can break the law. And if he has a bad fall or the dog bites him, I'm not responsible." The woman slams the door in my mom's face. 2 days later, it happens. My mom's in her room, and she hears a crash, barking, and crying. The kid had slipped off the wall, landed on the dog's house, and completely destroyed it. And our nervous little chihuahua bit him. My mom makes sure the bite hasn't drawn blood and the kid hadn't hit his head, and she sends him home, thinking he's learned his lesson. About a week later, I get the mail, and Karen's suing us for medical expenses, and she wants my dog put down. I lost my lid. I wanted to go there and beat Karen for wanting to hurt my dog, but my usually fiery mom made me calm down, and she said we would go to court. So on court day, I was very worried. I wasn't sure what Dominican laws were on the matter, but I know that in some countries, if any dog bites you, it's automatically put down. Enter Karen and the judge. The woman suing us for the equivalent of $4,000 for her son's medical expenses due to the bite, and she was demanding the dog be put down. So the judge asked my mom to tell her version of events, and then asked Karen if this was all true. Karen says, yes, what she says is true. The judge then says, "So you're telling me that you allowed your kid to trespass illegally to steal something he could get for free in the first place. He then destroyed property while stealing, and he got bitten by a scared chihuahua as a result." At that, Karen sputters and says, well, yes, my boy should be able to go wherever he likes. It's his right. The dog needs to be put down so my son can move freely. The judge tells her, no, your son's not entitled to go where he wants in other people's property. Tell me, do you let strangers wander into your home whenever they feel like? And do you have photos of your child's wound? That's when Karen responds, no, he didn't break any skin. The judge then says, then how do you explain your medical bills for the bite? He then says to my mom, can I see this dog? My mom shows the judge a photo of the dog, and judge rolls her eyes. She then says to Karen, you understand that if your child would have trespassed into a home with a large dog breed, he might be dead. The judge then says to my mom, ma'am, you're free to go. If you decide to countersue for destruction of property and trespassing, feel free to. You have a good case. My mom thanks the judge, and the judge assures her they won't bother us again. The kid never trespassed again, and Karen had to pay for my mom's legal fees. The audacity of some people never ceases to amaze me, guys. Like, how can you encourage your child to trespass on someone's property and then have the nerve to sue when they get hurt? And in this case, faking injury and medical bills. Like, she should get thrown in jail just for that. Like, are people that freaking delusional? Your dog needs to be put down so my son can continue to break the law. I'm just glad to know that she didn't get a dime out of OP, and that OP's dog is okay in the end. What a wild post. I'm a 17-year-old female, and I live with my parents. I have an older sister, 29, that they had when they were super young. I think my mom was 19 and my dad was 18. They didn't do a great job with her, and she has a lot of problems. She's chronically unemployed and a thief. She also has 2 kids that are okay. They live with us as well because her boyfriend didn't want them around. I like the kids, but they're spoiled brats, and my parents spoil them to make up for being crappy parents to their mom. That said, on to the meat of the post. My parents won't let me put a lock on my door because it's their house and they don't want that, which is no problem. I talked to the kids and I explained what would happen if they came into my room without permission. We have an understanding. Well, my sister broke up with her boyfriend and she needed a place to stay. I begged my parents to not let her stay with us. They declined, so I begged again for a lock on my door, no dice. I have to go to school, so I can't guard my stuff at all times. When I came home on Friday, I found my car absolutely trashed and the side of it completely destroyed. I find out that my sister had gone into my room, found my spare key, and she had taken my car to go hang out with some friends. She then lost control while eating and driving, and she sideswiped a tree. At least, that's what she told my parents. When I saw my car, I was livid. I told my parents that I expected her to pay to fix it. They said she didn't have any money. So I said I would call my grandparents, as they helped me get the car and insurance. So after talking with my grandfather, I came back to talk to my parents. I said the insurance would cover fixing or replacing my car, depending on the damage, but I would have to file a police report and that my sister would probably be charged for stealing my car. My parents then begged me to tell insurance that she had permission to take my car. I said no, because that would be fraudulent. So rather than going through insurance, they're replacing my car, but they're using the money that they had set aside to take me and my nieces to Orlando next summer for graduation, which is fine. I can do without seeing Disney World again. But here's the thing. My parents, my sister, and my nieces are upset with me. They're saying that I'm the a-hole for denying my nieces the opportunity to go on a vacation they've never had. I just asked them if a lock for my door would have been cheaper. So am I the a-hole in this situation? I'm leaving you guys with this one, but in my opinion, OP is definitely not the a-hole in this one, because entitled sister needs to learn that actions do have consequences. And stealing OP's car when she knew OP wouldn't allow it at all, and then crashing it, was the instant karma she deserved. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Like, it's 1,000% sister's fault that her kids are missing out on Disney World. And this person comments, you are not the a-hole. Your parents could go the cheaper route and send your sister to jail for grand theft and teach her they won't always bail her out. Then, no ruined vacation either. Again, let me know your thoughts. I know you guys love hearing posts about siblings and family dramas. So let me know what you would do in this situation. If your sibling stole your car and crashed it, who's throwing them under the bus to teach them a lesson, and who's defending them? And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our / entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/ entitled people episode, another one, where psycho Karens are learning not to mess with their neighbors. So go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.